You're still searching, aren't you? Still swiping, still hoping, still wondering why it hasn't happened for you yet. Still waking up some mornings with that hollow ache in your chest, that quiet voice whispering, maybe there's something wrong with me. You've read the books, you've done the work, you've put yourself out there more times than you can count, and still you're here, alone, watching other people find what seems to come so easily to everyone but you. I see you. I see the exhaustion behind your smile. I see how tired you are of pretending it doesn't matter. I see the hope you're almost afraid to feel anymore, because hoping hurts when nothing changes. You've started to wonder if maybe love just isn't in the cards for you. Maybe you missed your window. Maybe you're too old, too damaged, too complicated. Maybe you've made too many mistakes. But what if I told you that you've been lied to? What if everything you believe about finding love, everything our culture has taught you about attraction, compatibility, timing, and luck is fundamentally, dangerously wrong? What if the very thing you've been doing to find love is exactly what's been pushing it away? Stay with me for the next 30 minutes, because what you're about to hear isn't another list of dating tips. It isn't another strategy to make yourself more attractive or more interesting or more available. This is about something much deeper. Something that will change not just your relationship status, but your entire relationship with yourself. What if love isn't something you find at all? What if it's something you become? There was a woman, let's call her Margaret, who was 63 years old and had spent the better part of 4 decades searching for love. She had been married twice, dated extensively in between, read every book on relationships, attended workshops, and even hired a matchmaker. She told a friend, "I've done everything right. I've worked on myself. I've put myself out there. And still, I'm alone." But here's what's fascinating about Margaret's story. When her friend asked her to describe what she was looking for, Margaret spent 20 minutes talking about what she didn't want. I don't want someone who's controlling. I don't want someone who's unavailable. I don't want to be hurt again. I don't want to lose myself in another person. 20 minutes. And not once did she describe what love actually felt like to her. Not once did she close her eyes and allow herself to experience the sensation of being deeply connected to another human being. You know this pattern. You've lived it. You've spent so much energy protecting yourself from what you don't want that you've forgotten to open yourself to what you do. Let that land for a moment. Because everything you've been taught about manifesting love, about finding your person, about being in the right place at the right time, about making yourself attractive enough or interesting enough or healed enough, all of it operates on a fundamental misunderstanding of how the universe actually works. When most people talk about manifesting love, they're really talking about acquisition. They're talking about getting something they don't currently have. They approach love the same way they might approach buying a house or landing a job, as a transaction, a goal to be achieved, a box to be checked. And I want to be very clear about something. That approach will never work. Not because you're doing it wrong, not because you need a better strategy, but because the entire premise is flawed. You cannot manifest something you believe yourself to be separate from. Let me say that again, because this is the foundation for everything else we'll explore together. You cannot manifest something you believe yourself to be separate from. Think about what happens when you wake up in the morning and the first thought that crosses your mind is, I'm alone. Notice what that does to your body. Notice how your chest might tighten, how your energy contracts, how you begin the day from a place of lack. That thought, I'm alone, isn't just a description of your circumstances. It's an instruction to your nervous system. It's a signal to the universe about who you are and what you expect to receive. Now imagine someone else waking up in the same situation, single, living alone, no romantic prospect on the horizon. But their first thought is different. They think, I am surrounded by love. Not because they're delusional, not because they're pretending, but because they've trained themselves to notice the love that already exists in their life, the friend who called yesterday, the stranger who held the door, the warmth of sunlight through the window. These two people will have entirely different days. Not because their external circumstances are different, but because their relationship to love itself is different. Here's what I've observed in my own life and in the lives of countless people I've spoken with over the years. The people who struggle most to find love are almost always the people who have the narrowest definition of what love is. They've decided that love only counts if it comes in one specific package, a romantic partner, a certain type of family, a particular kind of friendship. And in doing so, they've made themselves blind to the ocean of love they're already swimming in. Have you noticed this in your own experience? Have you ever been so focused on the love you wanted that you couldn't see the love you had? Take a breath right now. Just one slow breath. And ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you felt genuinely grateful for connection, any connection, without immediately thinking about what was missing? I think of a man, let's call him David, who came to one of my lectures years ago. He was in his early 50s, never married, and deeply convinced that something was wrong with him. Everyone else figures this out, he told me. Why can't I? I asked him to tell me about the love in his life. He looked at me like I'd asked him to describe the color of invisible things. What love? He said. So I asked different questions. I asked about his sister, who called him every Sunday without fail. I asked about his dog, who greeted him at the door each evening like he was the most important being in the universe. I asked about his colleague, who always saved him the good parking spot, about the barista who knew his order by heart, about the elderly neighbor whose lawn he'd been mowing for years. As we talked, something shifted in David's face. His eyes softened. His shoulders dropped. I never thought of any of that as love, he said. And there it was. The problem wasn't that David was unloved. The problem was that he had defined love so narrowly that most of it couldn't get through to him. He was standing in the rain complaining about being thirsty. This is the first pattern I want you to recognize. The story of scarcity. Most of us walk through life telling ourselves a story about what we lack. We rehearse this story so often that it becomes invisible to us, like water to a fish. We don't even realize we're telling it. But the story is there, running constantly in the background, shaping what we notice and what we miss. The story says, I am not loved enough. I am not connected enough. Something is missing. Something is wrong. And here's what's so insidious about this story. It feels like truth. It feels like you're just describing reality as it is, but you're not. You're describing reality as your conditioning has taught you to see it. Because here's what nobody tells you about perception. You don't see the world as it is. You see the world as you are. Your eyes take in information, yes, but your mind decides what that information means. And if your mind has been trained to look for evidence of love's absence, that's exactly what it will find. Every unreturned text becomes proof that you're unwanted. Every Friday night alone becomes proof that you're unlovable. Every happy couple you pass on the street becomes proof that everyone else has figured out something you haven't. But none of that is true. It's just the story. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really sit with this question rather than rushing to answer it. When was the last time you received love and actually let it in? Not deflected it with humor. Not dismissed it as just being polite. Not told yourself it didn't really count because it wasn't the right kind of love. When was the last time someone offered you kindness, affection, care, attention, and you opened yourself completely to receive it? For most people, this is surprisingly difficult. We're much better at giving love than receiving it. We're much more comfortable earning love than simply accepting it. And this creates a fascinating problem. Because when you can't receive the love that's already coming toward you, you create evidence for the story that love isn't available. The love is there, arriving constantly in 1,000 small forms, but it bounces off you like rain off a closed umbrella. Then you look around at your dry inner landscape and conclude, see, no love here. The second pattern I want you to notice is the belief in your own unworthiness. Somewhere along the way, usually very early in life, most of us absorb the message that we are not quite enough as we are. Maybe it came from a parent who was too overwhelmed to give us the attention we needed. Maybe it came from a schoolyard experience of rejection. Maybe it came from a culture that constantly tells us we need to be thinner, richer, more successful, more interesting. The source doesn't really matter. What matters is the residue it left behind. This quiet, persistent sense that we must earn love rather than simply be it. Notice how this shows up in your relationships. Notice how you might perform, please, prove, or perfect in order to be acceptable to others. Notice how exhausting that is. Notice how it never quite works because the person you're performing for might love the performance, but you know they haven't seen the real you. So even when you receive love, it doesn't land. It can't. Because some part of you believes it's not really meant for you. It's meant for the version of you that you've presented. This is the trap. This is why so many people can be surrounded by love and still feel profoundly alone. So let's talk about how this actually works. Let's talk about what love really is and how you align yourself with it. In my understanding, love is not an emotion. Love is not even a feeling. Love is a state of being. It is what you are made of. It is the fundamental fabric of the universe, the energy that connects all things to all other things. You were born as love. Look at any infant. They don't have to learn to be loving. They don't have to work at it. They simply radiate connection, openness, presence. They look at the world without judgment, without defense, without agenda. That's not innocence. That's their natural state. And it's still your natural state too. It's just been covered over by decades of conditioning, protection, and fear. So when we talk about manifesting love, we're not really talking about attracting something new into your life. We're talking about returning to something that was always there. We're talking about removing the barriers you've built against the love that is constantly flowing toward you. This is a completely different project than what most people are engaged in. Here's what I've come to understand about the mechanism of manifestation. And this applies not just to love, but to everything you want to create in your life. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. Let me explain what I mean by that. Every thought you think creates a vibration. Every feeling you feel creates a resonance. And the universe, which is far more responsive than most people realize, matches that vibration and resonance with corresponding experiences. This isn't magic. This isn't wishful thinking. This is simply how energy works. So when you spend your days in a state of lack, focused on what you don't have, worried about being alone, scanning for evidence that you're unloved, you're sending out a signal of scarcity. And the universe, being infinitely cooperative, says, scarcity? Got it. Here's more evidence of scarcity. But when you shift into a state of fullness, genuinely appreciating the love already present, feeling grateful for connection even in small doses, moving through the world as someone who is love rather than someone who needs love, you send out a completely different signal. And the universe matches that too. Now here's the part that changes everything. And I need you to really hear this because it's the hinge on which all of this turns. You cannot fake this. You cannot use gratitude as a manipulation tactic. You cannot pretend to feel abundant while secretly believing in scarcity. The universe doesn't respond to your words or your vision boards or your affirmations. It responds to your vibration, and your vibration is created by your deepest beliefs, not your surface thoughts. This is why so many people try manifestation techniques and get frustrated. They say the right things, do the right exercises, think positive thoughts, but underneath, they don't really believe any of it. They're just going through the motions while their true vibration remains unchanged. The work of manifesting love isn't about learning new strategies. It's about changing who you are at the most fundamental level. It's about genuinely becoming a person who already feels loved, not as a trick to get love, but as an authentic expression of truth. Let me tell you about two people I've known over the years. The first was a woman, I'll call her Elena, who was stunningly beautiful by conventional standards, successful in her career, charming, intelligent, and endlessly seeking love. She approached dating with the efficiency of a military campaign. She optimized her appearance, crafted the perfect dating profile, knew exactly what to say and when to say it, and she had no shortage of initial interest. Men were drawn to her constantly, but nothing lasted. Every relationship started strong and faded within months. And Elena was devastated by this. She couldn't understand what she was doing wrong. What Elena never realized was that underneath all her external efforts, she was radiating desperation. She needed love to feel okay about herself. She needed someone else's validation to believe she had worth. And people could sense this, maybe not consciously, but energetically. The relationships failed because they were based on a transaction. Give me love so I can feel whole. And no one wants to be someone else's source of wholeness. It's too much pressure. Elena's story is heartbreaking because she tried so hard. She did everything our culture tells us to do, but she was running in the wrong direction, away from herself, towards something she believed existed outside of her. But here's what changes everything. The second person was a man named Samuel, And Samuel's story might be the most important thing you hear today. Samuel was not conventionally attractive. He was overweight, balding, worked a modest job, and had none of the external markers that our culture associates with desirability. But Samuel radiated something that Elena didn't. Samuel genuinely loved being himself. He found life amusing and interesting. He treated strangers with warmth because that's who he was, not because he wanted anything from them. He was content in his own company, curious about other people, and completely unconcerned with whether anyone approved of him. Samuel never had trouble finding love. People were drawn to him not because of what he looked like or what he had, but because of how they felt in his presence. They felt accepted. They felt seen. They felt like they could relax and be themselves. Samuel wasn't using a technique. He wasn't trying to manifest anything. He had simply become the kind of person who naturally attracts connection, because connection flowed out of him freely without agenda. Do you see the difference? Elena was trying to get love. Samuel was being love. And the universe responded accordingly. This is the mechanism. This is how it works. You don't attract love by becoming more attractive. You attract love by becoming more loving. You don't find your person by searching harder. You find them by becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to search, because love is already your natural state. But here's what nobody talks about. Here's the part that makes this genuinely difficult. To become a person who radiates love, you must first face everything in yourself that believes you are not worthy of it. All those old wounds, all those childhood conclusions about your value, all those moments when you were rejected, abandoned, overlooked, or dismissed, they're still there, operating beneath the surface, creating your vibration without your conscious awareness. And they will not be bypassed. They cannot be positive thought away. They must be met, acknowledged, felt, and ultimately released. This is why inner work is not optional. This is why meditation, reflection, therapy, journaling, whatever practices help you access your deeper layers are not luxuries, but necessities. Because until you heal the parts of you that believe you're unlovable, you will continue to attract experiences that confirm that belief. The ego resists this work. It would rather keep you focused on external solutions, a new dating app, a better approach, a more attractive appearance. Those things are easier. They don't require you to feel the old pain, but they don't work. They can't work. Because the signal you're sending comes from within, and no external change can alter it. Here's what I want you to understand about fear and love. They cannot coexist in the same moment. Physiologically, psychologically, spiritually, you cannot be in a state of fear and a state of love simultaneously. One crowds out the other. And most people approach relationships from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of being seen and found wanting, fear of vulnerability, fear of being hurt again. This fear creates contraction. It creates guardedness, testing, holding back. It creates the very outcomes it's trying to prevent, because people can sense when you're afraid, and fear is not attractive. Fear pushes love away. To manifest love, you must learn to move through fear rather than being controlled by it. You must learn to feel afraid and stay open anyway. This is not recklessness, it's courage. It's the recognition that a defended heart cannot receive the love it longs for. So let's talk about what you actually do with all of this. Let's move from understanding to practice. The first and most essential practice is this: cultivate awareness of your stories. Throughout each day, notice the narrative running in your mind about love, connection, and your worthiness to receive them. Don't try to change these stories immediately, just notice them. There's the story that I'm too old. There's the story that I'm too broken. There's the story that real love is for other people. The simple act of noticing creates space. When you can observe your thoughts, you're no longer completely identified with them. You begin to see that these are just stories, not facts. And stories can be changed. The second practice involves expanding your definition of love. Every day, look for evidence that you are already loved. Not romantic love necessarily, just love in any form. The warmth in your friend's voice, the meal your mother made, the way your pet follows you from room to room, the courtesy of a stranger, the beauty of something in nature that seems placed there just for your enjoyment. Make this a deliberate practice. Before sleep each night, identify 3 moments from the day when love was present, even in small, easily overlooked ways. Train your perception to scan for love's presence rather than its absence. This isn't about pretending things are better than they are. It's about correcting a distortion. Because your mind has been trained to emphasize what's missing, and this practice retrains it toward accuracy. So here's what you do. Starting today, not someday. The third practice is the most challenging. Learn to receive. The next time someone compliments you, resist the urge to deflect. Just say thank you. Let their words land. Feel them. The next time someone offers help, accept it, even if you could manage alone. Allow yourself to be supported. The next time someone expresses affection, stay present. Don't rush past the moment. Don't tell yourself it doesn't really count. Let their love reach you. For many people, this is profoundly uncomfortable. Receiving feels vulnerable. It feels like a loss of control. But until you can receive love in small doses, you cannot open to receive it in larger ones. Let me give you something concrete, something you can begin immediately. Throughout your day, ask yourself, how would I act right now if I knew I was deeply, completely loved? How would I treat this stranger? How would I respond to this frustration? How would I care for my own body? Then act that way, not to attract anything, not as a technique, but as an experiment in discovering who you already are when the fear of unlove is removed. There's a practice I've found particularly powerful, and I want to share it with you because it addresses something fundamental. Each morning, before you begin your day, spend 5 minutes in quiet stillness. Close your eyes, place your hand on your heart, and silently offer yourself the words you most long to hear from another person. You are worthy of love. You are seen. You are enough, exactly as you are. This might feel strange at first. It might even bring up tears. That's okay. That's the old pain surfacing to be released. Because here's the truth. Until you can speak these words to yourself and believe them, no one else's words will ever fully land. You'll always be waiting for the next reassurance, the next proof, the next external confirmation. But when you become your own source of love, other people's love becomes a beautiful addition rather than a desperate necessity. Let me address something that might be arising as resistance. Some part of you might be thinking, this sounds nice, but I want a partner. I want a specific person to share my life with. And you're telling me to just be content with petting my dog and receiving compliments? I understand. And I want to be clear. There's nothing wrong with wanting a romantic partner. That desire is natural and beautiful. But here's what I've observed again and again. The people who find deep, lasting romantic love are almost always the people who stopped making it a precondition for their happiness. They're the people who built full, meaningful lives and then welcomed someone else into that fullness. The desperate search for a partner pushes potential partners away. The relaxed enjoyment of life as it already is draws people toward you like a warm fire on a cold night. It's a paradox. The less you need romantic love, the more likely you are to find it. Not because the universe is playing games with you, but because neediness repels and fullness attracts. I want to leave you with something that has taken me decades to understand. Love is not a destination you arrive at. It's not a problem you solve once and then forget about. It's a practice. It's a way of moving through the world, a quality of attention, a willingness to stay open when everything in you wants to close. You will not be perfect at this. You will fall back into old patterns. You will forget and fear and contract. That's fine. That's human. What matters is that you keep returning. Keep choosing love over fear. Keep softening when you want to harden. Keep looking for evidence of connection when your mind wants to catalog loneliness. Remember Margaret from the beginning? The woman who spent 20 minutes describing what she didn't want? The last I heard about her, something had changed. Not her circumstances. She was still single, still living alone, but she had stopped searching. She had started appreciating. She had begun to notice that love was arriving constantly in 100 small forms she'd previously dismissed. And something interesting happened. Once she stopped radiating lack, once she began moving through the world as someone who was already deeply loved, people started appearing. Not because she had finally found the right technique, but because she had finally become the right vibration. Margaret found her partner at 65. They met at a community garden, two people who had stopped desperately searching and started simply living. She'll tell you that the relationship isn't what healed her. The healing came first. The relationship was simply what followed. Here's what I want you to carry with you from everything we've explored today. You are not separate from love. You never have been. Love is what you are made of, and it has been flowing toward you every moment of your existence. Your only task, your entire spiritual practice, is to remove the barriers you've built against receiving it. This is not about becoming worthy of love. You are already worthy. You were worthy at birth, and you will be worthy at death, and nothing that happens in between can change that. This is about remembering what you've forgotten, coming home to who you've always been, letting go of the stories that kept you feeling separate from the very thing you most deeply are. Tonight, before you sleep, I want you to do one specific thing. Close your eyes and bring to mind one moment from this day when love was present, in any form. It could be something small, something you might normally overlook. Hold that moment. Feel its warmth. Let it expand until it fills your chest. Then ask yourself, how many moments like this have I missed? How much love has arrived that I was too distracted or defended to receive? Let that question stay with you as you drift off. Let it work on you while you sleep. And tomorrow, move through your day with slightly softer eyes, looking for what you've been trained not to see. Love isn't coming someday. Love is here now, waiting for you to open to it. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And when you change the way you look at love, you'll find it's been looking at you all along. Go gently. Go with love, because that's what you are.